Hello and welcome back again in our question and answer series for the September attempt. As the famous question, to be or not to be in Shakespeare's play for Hamlet, the famous question for a CPA exam is to copy the FR criteria from the handbook or not, especially for day one. Like should I copy or not? Is it considered like if I write my own criteria, is it considered or not? So there is that always that confusion on FRAOs. Um, Always FRAOs take some time to reach what is expected and reach the level of C. It takes some time to reach that level. So that understanding always comes, I would say, very late in your case writing practice. So let's just quickly discuss what is expected and how you should approach FRAOs. So very first thing, FRAO should be approached in four parts. So issue, gap, analysis, and your recommendation. So what is your issue? So narrate the issue, like the treatment of property, plant, and equipment is not correct because of the case facts. This is they capitalized, they should not be capitalized. This is like component capitalization should be there, whatever the issue is. So describe the issue with the case fact. Second part is the gap. So in the gap, either it would be ASPE or IFRS. Here the question comes about the criteria. So copy the criteria from the handbook if you're writing day two, because day two you're supposed to have achieved depth. You're supposed to have 5 hours for writing day two, so you have that extra time, like it's 16 17 minutes per AO. So you have that time to copy the criterias for FR handbook on day two. So copy the criterias. So that is second part, gap. So IGA. Then analysis. So what is your analysis? What has gone wrong? What is correct? Explain that. And then recommendation is your conclusion. Like what do you conclude? That what would be your adjustment journal entry, if any? What is the calculation as per your IFRS treatment? So always remember to write your answer in these four parts. Second important mistake that I see repeatedly is that people copy the criteria and write as met or not met. That is not sufficient. Suppose you are explaining a revenue recognition, that collection is reasonably assured, and you write met. So don't just write met or not met. Explain that why the collection is reasonably assured. They have paid the initial fees, you have received the advance, and it supports the collectibility. So write that, bring in that case fact, and explain in one sentence. It doesn't have to be, again, it doesn't have to be a paragraph. It doesn't have to be too much detail, but don't just copy and write met or not met. That is not counted. You have to apply that criteria in your cases to be considered um, as in the level of discussed. Otherwise it just becomes attempted. Now this is for day two, I'm saying, and the final part will be the conclusion. Whatever you have concluded, write the final conclusion. Now this is for day two. You have to do this everything in depth. Now always the problem is with day three FRAOs, because you don't have sufficient time to go to the handbook, search for the ASPE or IFRS, copy the, it just wastes that 1 minute. So nowhere in CPA's guidelines it says that it has to be copied from the handbook, but what is required is you should mention the criteria. So what I suggest to my students is, for repetitive ASPEs and IFRS, learn the criteria by heart. So like ASPE revenue recognition is simple. You know, three criteria: collection is reasonably assured, consideration can be reliably measured, and performance can be achieved. And then depending on where the problem is, you can go into depth. So if the performance is not achieved, discuss about what performance, when it was delivered, is it still pending, or whatever the case fact is. So you can go into that detail. And then the other two criteria you can just mention, or liability, contingent liability, intangible assets, property, plant, and equipment. All these repeatedly tested IFRS and ASPEs, try to learn the criteria, the criteria for recognition, and mention that in one line so that you don't waste that time, especially for day 3 going to the handbook and copying the criteria. Now for not non-routine or untested, you will have to still go to the handbook and uh, copy the criteria, but at least it would save you time, where at least you have that uh, that quickly you can refer to those things. Now suppose IFRS revenue recognition is complicated, but not every step, like it's a 5-step revenue recognition, but not every step is having a problem as such. So wherever there is no problem, just write the one line criteria and say that okay, collectability is assured, performance obligation met, or explain with the case facts. And wherever there is an issue, then go into depth and copy only that part of the criteria, so that you are not going back and forth and copying, pasting, and wasting your time in that. So for ASPE lease, capital lease or operating lease, capital lease criteria, write it quickly. Transfer of ownership, lease term exceeds 75% of the economic life, or the present value of the minimum lease payments exceeds 90%, and then you can apply the case facts. So what I'm trying to say is, for repetitive ASPE IFRS, learn the recognition criterias and mention it and write it on your own, so that your FR AOs move faster for day 3. For day 2, definitely go and copy the formulas. Do not just copy and write met or not met. Incorporate your case facts, incorporate your analysis or your comment on applying the criteria as per your case facts, and then comment why it is met or why it is not met, and then move along to the final recommendation. Now, most of the times in FRAOs, there could be a follow-up type of recommendation as well. So for example, uh, like there is something that is happening at the transaction date, and there is something that is happening at the year end. So like property, plant, and equipment. The issue is maybe at the acquisition date. So you give the recommendation for the acquisition date. But what is your depreciation for the year end policy? Impairment of asset. What is the criteria for year end? So usually for FROs, there would be a follow-up recommendation as well. So be sure that you are covering, maybe it's in one line, but make sure that you are covering that as well. So to copy or not, wherever possible, learn the criteria, write it in your own words. Wherever on day 2, do copy the criteria from the handbook. And all the best. If you're new here, please like, share, subscribe to this channel. I upload CFE preparation videos every week and trying to help all of you to get your designation. So all the best to all the students who are appearing for September 2021. If you have any last minute questions, please write down your questions and I'll try to answer your questions. All the best. Bye.